Hey moms, do you want the inside scoop? Today I have a very special guest, my 15-year-old bonus daughter, Haley. And today she's going to share her thoughts on everything from technology to addiction and give us a unique perspective on what it's like to be a teenager in today's world. So grab yourself a cup of coffee, sit back, and join us as we ramble on about teenage life, merging into adulthood, and all the things in between. Hi, I'm Jenna Dix, and I'm always rambling. Just ask my husband. I have a great family and a pretty cool life, but I'm a recovered alcoholic. That's hard to say, but my goal is to inspire and educate to help others hopefully find life beyond an addiction. I'm all things: sex, drugs, and rock and roll. Getting healthy, momming, and politics. Get offended easily? You better stop listening. There is no point in wasting that Botox by stressing yourself out listening to a podcast. Welcome to Ramblings of an Addict with Jenna Dix. Today's episode brought to you by products and services that I'm thoroughly addicted to. Hey there, Kia and Hyundai owners. Are you worried about the recent crime wave and how it might affect your car insurance coverage? Don't panic. Call Tucker Schlottman. Tucker has been helping Minnesota families find affordable insurance for years, and he knows how important it is to have the right coverage, especially during uncertain times. With the recent crime wave affecting communities across the state, it's more important than ever to have insurance coverage that protects you and your vehicle. And with Tucker, you can rest easy knowing you have the coverage you need at a price you can afford, even as a Kia or Hyundai owner. So why wait? Call or text Tucker Schlottman today and get the peace of mind you deserve. He is the insurance broker Minnesota and Wisconsin families trust, and he's here to help you through these challenging times. Tucker Schlottman, your insurance partner for life and the guy who can help you find the coverage you need. Be sure to check the show notes for more information so you can text him right now, or if you know anyone who needs help with a new home or auto insurance policy or reshopping on their current policy, spread the love and introduce them to Tucker. Thank you so much for being here today. I am very excited for today's podcast because, as I said in the introduction, we have a very special guest. Before we dive in, I definitely encourage, this is an episode that you're going to want to share, whether it's with another mom that has some up-and-coming young kids that, are right heading into those teenage years, or maybe you have a teenager yourself. Maybe it might even be a sibling or something of that sort, but I do feel teenagers right now are dealing with a world that a lot of us adults, we're not too many years out, but yet it is so different from what we experienced. And I think all generations of parents have said that, right? To a point, it's very true. But even for us as adults, the world, in these last 5 years, even in these last 2 years, has completely flipped. And for our kids, dealing with COVID and dealing with everything going on in our country, and for us Minnesotans, the things going on in our state, our kids are going through it with us. And I think a lot of kids are more aware of it than a lot of kids of the past. Current events went right over my head back then. But for kids now and teenagers who are a little bit more aware, they're living in a world that I don't think many of us have ever experienced. And then you tack on technology that is absolutely insane compared to what we had. I remember my first computer in school was black and green. And the only thing I could do on there was play the trail game. I can't even think of what it's called, but that's all I could do. And, they have had essentially high-tech computers the size of their palm in their hands since very young ages. So definitely a good episode to share with people that have those teenagers or have kids right around the corner from those teenagers, because I don't think there's anyone better to hear from than a teenager themselves. And today, like I said, I have my amazing bonus daughter, Haley. She is a teenager who loves sports. She has recently found a love for her youth group at our church, and she's an amazing big sister. Haley is 15 years old. She splits time between our house and then her mom's house, so she's 50-50. At our house, obviously, she's got McKenna, so a little crazy 3-year-old tagging along. And then over at her mom, she has 2 brothers that actually kind of sandwich McKenna, one a little bit older, one slightly younger. So she has little ones around her pretty much all the time. But she does an amazing job. So we are very blessed that she has a big heart for those little ones. But I'm not going to waste any time. I'm super excited to dive into today's podcast and have her answer these questions. So with that, I want to introduce Haley, and I want to thank you for being here today.
Of course.
So first question, very basic. I already gave you a little rundown, right? But I would love for you to tell the audience just a little bit more about you.
Well, like you said, I love sports. Play softball and basketball. Started playing softball in kindergarten, I think, and basketball in 3rd grade? 4th grade?
I think it was 4th grade.
So, much love for all sports, even just watching. Love going to church, going to youth group. Slightly new, I guess you could say.
I would say so.
But it's been going very good, and gotten a little bit into politics from when you guys also started, so yeah.
Absolutely.
Basic rundown.
Yeah. I think with Haley, one of the coolest things with the sports piece is I think she could sit down with, like, you know, everyone, oh, it's a male thing. They know their sports. You know, don't talk to my husband when the game is on. I think that she could sit down with some of those males and probably know more about everything going on. You know, her and her dad will, you know, oh, this, that, the other in hockey. And, oh, did you hear about this, that, the other in basketball? And, oh, did you hear about that football thing? I'm like, how do you keep up with all of that? It literally has floored me from the beginning of this. I mean, she has always liked sports, but I would say that's a more recent thing, probably within the last 3 years. So, what do you think? Like 3 years?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably.
I would think like 3 years. So, but yeah. So, with that one, let's jump forward just a little bit more. So, teenage. Oh, I remember when she became a teenager. It was freaking, it's just flying by. So, what is your favorite thing about being a teenager?
Probably, well, obviously, as a teenager, I don't have as much of a responsibility as you do, but I think learning how to be more responsible with the responsibilities that I do have. As in cleaning, starting to drive, trying to balance everything. I think that's
absolutely
good.
Yeah, and that's what these years are about, right? Like, we don't want you to have too much on your plate, because end of the day, like, we want kids to be kids. We want teenagers to enjoy this time in their lives, but at the same time, we can't let you turn out to be complete lazy a-holes, right? Yeah. So we need to tack some responsibility on, and I think just like every family out there, we've definitely had our rounds with these, you know, these moments where we have to sit down and be like, okay, we have to have this conversation because you dropped the ball in XYZ. Mm-hmm. But even though I'm sure being on the receiving end of those lectures, it sucks, because I remember being on that end, but it's normal, right? I mean, it's not like you're doing anything that's absolutely absurd, but I think you put that beautifully, because, you know, it's about, I don't have a ton of responsibility. I don't have to do all the things that an adult has to yet, but learning, because, I mean, you're 15, almost 16, and, you know, it's not going to be too many years till you're out the door by your lonesome in a dorm or wherever you head. So setting you up for success, but letting you enjoy as much of it right now as you can too.
Yeah.
So next question is, what is your favorite memory of your family and how has it inspired you?
I have a lot of favorites, but I think one of the top ones for sure was the convention last year. It was just so cool being around like-minded people that actually cared, because you can be around, you can be around people that you may agree with, but they might not be as into it. But at convention, everybody, for the most part, wanted to be there and wanted to engage in what was going on.
Yeah, absolutely. So for those of you that, you're like, what the heck is she talking about? So, as she mentioned, our family has gotten into politics, and we're going to get into that in a few more questions here. But one of the first big things we did was we went to an endorsing convention. So we went to the state endorsing convention where we endorsed our 4 big statewide office candidates. So Secretary of State, Auditor, Attorney General, and Governor. And it's a big to-do. Like, it was my first one even attending, and it's a big deal. Like, huge convention center, thousands of people. I mean, it's nowhere near like a real concert. Like, let's be real, let's put this into perspective. It's not like going to, Taylor Swift. I think that's the big one. I don't think I'd pay for those tickets, but it's cool. If you're a political nerd, like our family is becoming, it's cool. Everyone's got their signs, and like she said, everyone wanted to be there. They're wanting to engage, very like-minded people. Even though we disagree on certain candidates or we're disagreeing on certain points, we have very similar ideologies. So I think that's cool, and I'm going to, throw her under the bus, I guess, to a point. But when we got home, she actually wrote like a journal entry about it. It was so, I'm like, she sat there and like, what are you doing? And I'm writing about it. I'm like, that is so cool. So, super awesome. I'm glad you came.
Me too.
Okay, so I'm curious then, what is the most significant challenge you've experienced in life? And granted, 15 years, it's not a super long time, but I know I've watched you go through a lot of challenges. You've overcome quite a few of them. What has been a difficult one for you, and how have you fought to overcome that?
So recently I have had some anxiety. It's gotten a little bit worse the past few weeks. I think, especially through COVID, I think that was where it really hit, with the mental health issues. But as of recently, anxiety. Still kind of learning how to navigate getting through it. But I think I have a devotional that you got me, and there's one about worrying, and I've been reading that every morning before I go to school to kind of help.
That's awesome.
Get through the day.
Yeah. So you're figuring it out one step at a time.
Mm-hmm.
And, I think that a lot of kids are dealing with stuff like that. We, like Dad and I brought up to her dad and I, right now the stats are like pretty near 50-50 that teenage girls are dealing with some kind of, whether it's depression or anxiety or something of that sort. The reasons that that's happening, a plethora, but, as her parents, we all were like, okay, something's going on. And the nice thing is she's open to chat, not like spill her guts, which we respect that. We don't expect her to share everything, but like keeping us in the know of, okay, this is how I'm feeling. This is kind of what's going on. And also very, for the most part, been receptive of like, yeah, I know I need to work on this. I can't have this be my life. So I like that. And, who knows, as you continue to overcome it, it might be something that you continue to share with people and help them learn from that experience, because you have been fighting really hard. Something to definitely be proud of. Okay, so moving forward in this one is something, like she said, is newer. Our family, we found our home church about a year and a half ago, and it was the right spot. I guess church shopped for quite a while trying to find the right one. When you're trying to find the right church that has the right message and I guess speaks to you in a way that you actually hear it. Mm-hmm. And it's not just for you when you're a mom. Like, okay, is this going to work for my husband? Is this going to work for my girls? Do they have, activities and things that my kids are going to need? And it took us a bit, but we found it. And this church is truly, God placed it in our lives.
I agree.
Haley, we didn't, we came of it with the mindset of, hey, you don't have to come to church with us if you don't want to. You don't have to do youth group if you don't want to. Because I was raised in a family like we were not good Catholics by any means. But yet when mom was like, oh, I want to go to church, it was like everybody's going to church or everybody has to do faith formation. And it was like, dude, that's dumb. Like, don't force me to do this just because you are in a moment, right? So we came of like, yeah, no, we're not going to force her. And then she actually, there's times when we're like, oh, let's just watch online. And she's like, oh, we're not going to church. So
it's that power, like when you're there, and I feel like I understand the message more.
When you don't have a 3-year-old running around and screaming. She gets to go to youth or to Sunday school so we can actually focus. At home, she has nowhere to go. But Haley just recently actually joined the youth group. And I think we were all nervous. I remember the first time we walked in and we were driving there and I kind of gave her the pass of, hey, if you don't want to go to youth group and you want to come with me, because I teach McKenna's Awana class, which is like their Bible passage studies class for little kids. It's really cool. If you want to come with me to that, you can. And that was her plan. So she walked in and she was going to come with me. And the youth pastor grabbed her and introduced her to somebody within, 30 seconds?
Oh, yeah, it was so quick.
He literally saw her and knew that we'd wanted to get her into this. And he's such a nice pastor. Mm-hmm. Grabbed her, introduced her, and off she went. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, I was like mom freaking out. I text her like 20 minutes later and I'm like, hey, if you want to come back to Awana, feel free. You don't have to stay there. And did you even respond? Mm-mm. No, she never even responded. She was having a good time. So it worked out. But I'm curious, how has youth group impacted your faith journey or just your journey in general?
So I would say being around the people there that are my age and also on their own faith journeys has helped me grow. Not only like with my faith, but as a person. Everybody there was just so welcoming, and I know not all churches will be like that, but I know for ours it was really nice to just, oh, hi, like, what's your name? Where do you go to school? Just right away.
Yeah. When I think a relief for you, too, was, so our church has an academy attached, so a preschool through grade 12 academy. And I was even under the impression that a lot of the kids go to the academy, which would make sense. Mm-hmm. And a fair amount do, right?
Yeah, all but like one or two.
Yeah, but there's still some. Like the first time she didn't go, the first girl you met, she didn't go there, right?
The first day it was 2 and one went, one didn't.
Okay, so 50-50.
Yeah.
So it's been nice that, a lot of kids do go to the academy, which, like I said, makes sense. But the fact that she's not the only one that, oh yeah, I don't go here.
Yeah.
But yeah, just getting to connect with other people in the community, because I'm a nerd and I think that's cool. But absolutely, people that get to help you grow in a way that you're not necessarily going to run into in a public school.
No.
Right. And I just got to be honest. We were sitting in here recording and the light is flickering. It is so weird. It's like...
we both keep looking up and what's going on?
But anyways, that just shows how good we are. It's not throwing us off too bad. So we're going to get into some good stuff here. Because I think, like I said, technology definitely has impacted our youth way more this generation than any other generation so far. I only think it's going to get worse, like the impact levels.
1,000%.
I mean, my fucking 2-year-old, she was, well, yeah, she's 3. Oh, yeah, she's 3 now. But what was she, like 1 when she could work that phone better than most of, it was like 1 year old, right?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. I remember we went to my uncle's one time, and she's sitting down there with a cell phone, and she's flying through YouTube, showing them stuff. She was like 1 year old. My uncle was like, are you kidding me? So, yeah, and the levels will only increase. But Haley's generation definitely got hit pretty hard. Mm-hmm. She was, I guess, 4th grade Christmas when you got your cell phone. Mm-hmm. Right, yeah. And you had, and our rules have been a little bit different than most parents. Like, we definitely, I think, have eased up a little bit. You've gotten more social media pieces as we've gone. Like, you have now your Be Real, Instagram. You have your TikTok and your Instagram, correct?
Visco.
And your Visco. So the only one technically you're missing, I mean, you don't want Facebook because that's for old people.
I think more people are getting it that are my age, too. Like, just...
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think because it's more to connect with, like, family.
Oh, that makes sense. So they can show grandma what they're doing.
Yeah.
Well, so that makes sense, absolutely. But, like, our rule in the beginning was you pick Instagram or Snapchat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I still question my decision to this day.
Well, you had Snapchat, mm-hmm. and then you made the decision of, I don't want this, I want Instagram, right?
Well, I made the decision that I wanted Instagram, and then you guys said, well, you have to pick one. And because I wanted the new thing.
But didn't you already have Snapchat?
Yeah.
Oh, so we told you, okay, that's how it went down. Mm-hmm. This was a few years back, holy moly.
Yeah.
Okay, and then we had our rounds with that, with your Snapchat. I'll let you share that if you'd like. But you are with Instagram now, and you do your thing there, and you have TikTok, and mm-hmm. there's outlets, right? Mm-hmm. I have my opinion. I don't love this, but end of the day, like, I get it, right? Like, I have social medias. I don't have TikTok per se, and I don't have, what is the one you and Dad have?
Be Real.
Be Real. I don't have Be Real, but I way overspend my time on, like, Instagram and Twitter. And
yeah, that's been a big one for you recently, is Twitter.
Yeah. So I'm curious, what's your opinion on social media?
Well, I know there's good and bad to everything. But with social media, I think there are a lot of good things and a lot of bad things. And I feel like, I don't even know if I could say that they lean a certain way. I think if it were to lean a certain way, it'd be a little bit more bad.
Okay, fair.
Just because...
I got you. Like, perspective-wise, you're talking.
Yeah.
Yep, I got you.
But yeah, I will not be getting rid of anytime soon unless I get them taken away. So, but I think, the goods, you can, at least for my generation, it's a lot easier to communicate, because I know a lot of my friends don't like talking on the phone and FaceTiming and stuff like that. But so it's a good way to communicate, and even just sharing, like, if you see something like a quote or like somebody else's post, you can just share it to your story really quick, and your friends can see what you think.
Yeah.
But the bad, you can waste a lot of time. I'll be honest. I waste a lot of time on my phone, and there is a lot of comparison, especially for a teenage girl. I'm sure all teenagers, girl and boy, but I think it's a lot worse for girls, just because that's our mindset, I feel like.
Yeah, I think we're harder on ourselves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, and I think all those goods and the bads are valid for all ages. I mean, dude, there are times even me, I'm like, why the hell is this person calling me? Like, dude, text me. Or, shoot me a message in Facebook. Like, what are you doing? And we waste too much time. Like, I have limits on mine, and there's more often than not when the limit hits that I'm like, ignore today. You don't have that
for the rest
ability.
Of the day. Not even 15 minutes. You do it for the rest of the day. Calling you out.
So if any of you have implemented, so Apple, we don't know the Droid life. We'd have to ask Dad, right? But Apple has ways that you can set screen limits on even your own phone. And I did it to myself. And yeah, you can either give yourself 1 more minute, 15 minutes, or all day, right? Mm-hmm. And I give myself all day.
Yeah, on my end, it's 1 minute, which you only get once.
Yes.
And then send a request to you, or like...
Yes.
Enter like the password.
Okay. Yeah, because hers is parental controlled, linked to my phone or my iPad, which Mike has the control over that. Yeah, so when she hits her limit, she can give herself 1 minute. She has the ability to do that. So I cannot tell you how many times we will get a text from her that says, I'm using my 1 minute, and it's like a message quick. And you can't respond to her because now she's out of minutes. So it's like, dude, why did you just not call?
I don't like talking on the phone.
It's fair. Fair. I just said that myself.
And I know both you and Dad don't like talking on the phone, even though that's part of your
Why are we in
job.
politics?
Right, and Dad, as a realtor?
Yeah, he's always on the phone, right? But anyways, so I totally feel that everything she said is completely valid for all age groups, but I really do think this is impacting you guys way more because you are having this from, what are you in 4th grade? 9?
I'm so bad with that.
Me too. I think it was 9. I think that's when you got your really cool Heelys. But yeah, so, all right, with that though, how do you think technology is influencing your generation, just your age group, your communication skills, your relationships that you have?
With communication, like, I feel like it can stem off, like, in person. Mm-hmm. I feel like I know for me, I'm really bad with communication, and I stumble on my words a lot, and I think that can stem off of technology because of you're not talking on the phone, right? You're just sending a quick text.
Yes.
So you're not actually speaking.
Correct. Yeah.
And I think that can affect communication.
Right.
Which then can stem into relationships if your communication between the two of you is not good.
100%.
But also, like, texting, your tone, is you can't tell.
No.
You could, oh, that's good. It could be taken so many different ways.
Oh, for sure.
You know what I mean?
Especially with people like you and Dad who are sarcastic all of the time.
Yep.
Yeah. Tone is hard. Like, I struggle with tone. Like, I have family members. Like, think of my aunt on Dad's side. Yeah. Like, and I've told her that. I'm like, dude, I can't read your tone. But one thing you said, and I've thought of this, right? So I think a lot of us as adults are like, I've heard thousands of times, especially, you know, going to different events, you know, this last year or so. That's one of the things, especially the older generation says, is these kids don't know how to talk because of those damn phones. Fair. But the way you just said it, I guess I never really thought about it. Like, I just am always like, well, they don't talk. Like, they just sit and text, da-da-da-da-da. But yeah, like, the fact that when you do talk, then you stumble over your words because it's just not a skill that you practice. And, you know, that's one thing they talk about, like, with speech giving is, okay, make sure you don't just sit and read your speech 100 times. Say it out loud because it truly does make a different brain connection when the words are physically being formed with your mouth and with your tongue and that muscle memory. Yeah, I didn't think of that. That was a really good point. Thank you. You're welcome. Okay. So, sliding into another topic that is definitely huge here on this podcast, you know, ramblings of an addict. So, obviously, this is something that, you know, me being an alcoholic, I was dealing with that when I was with her dad. You know, you'll hear from her in a minute. I'm grateful it definitely didn't impact her nearly the amount that I thought it did. But I'm curious, your perspective, how do you think addiction has affected our family or your family?
Yeah, like you said, I feel like you didn't show, you didn't show everything to me. And so I didn't fully, it didn't fully impact me. I know you always bring up the day that you were like, I'm done with this now.
Yeah.
Which, have you talked about that on here?
That was like one of the last times. Are you talking about the time we were in bed watching TV?
Yeah, and I paused the show.
Yeah. So I've talked about how I used to get like hangovers that were brutal. I would literally be throwing up for like 2 days straight. And how old were you? Probably like 11, 12? I don't even know.
Probably around.
Yeah, I mean, well, I've been sober 4.5 years. You're 15, so you might have even been like 10.
Around there.
Yeah, around there somewhere. Preteen. And we were watching Family Matters, laying in bed. She probably just thought I was being a lazy ass, but in truth, I was literally so hungover I could not get out of bed. And we were watching Family Matters together, and I had to keep going to the bathroom to throw up, and she would pause the show. And I'm thinking, this is so... Because she just thought I was sick. And I'm like, oh, this is so messed up. I cannot live like this. This is... You know, that wasn't my absolute rock bottom. I did hit that very soon after. I want to say that was maybe... I don't even think that was a full month before I was like, I'm done. But yeah, that one hit me really hard because I'm like, oh, my Lana, like, what a sweet girl. Like, I'll pause the show. And I'm in there, like, just feeling like total garbage. Like, you are a piece of absolute crap. But I do find it, you know, I've been very open with her. I've just, like, hence the podcast, obviously. Been very open. But I'm curious, you know, keep going. I know you had more that you wanted to talk about today.
Well, I've had other family members who well, more on my mom's side, that were also addicted to things, and I feel like growing up, it was hard because my mom was very adamant on not letting me see people that were abusing things that they shouldn't have been. And so I think I'm not being able to spend as much time with people as I could have.
Yeah.
And also watching relationships grow apart, I think, is another big one. That's happened a couple of times, and it's hard.
Hell yeah. And I give your mom kudos for, like, keeping those boundaries tight and solid. It's not easy. You know, I think we've talked about that even with you, that we have that boundary now, you know, like, we are not going to allow the girls to be in bars. We're not going to allow the girls to be around intoxicated or people on drugs. And it's not always as black and white as one would think, because you're like, well, crap, you know, like, I don't know. There always just seems to be moments where you're like, you question it, even as a parent. And the fact that your mom held tight to that with family members that she loved and you loved, and I give her kudos.
Well, and she didn't tell me what was actually going on, which I think helped. I have started to find out things as I've gotten older, obviously, but like when I was little, I had no idea what was going on. I just thought that my mom was just keeping me home and wanted me all to herself.
That's okay. And that's age appropriate.
Yeah.
I think that was good. That absolutely was a good skill. Okay, so with that, just kind of piggybacking off, I think one of the biggest things in life is, we're going to go through crap, but it's about, okay, what can I take away from this to improve or to get better or to, you know, learn from? So with watching multiple people, or being aware now that you are close to multiple people who have dealt with struggles with addiction, what are the most important lessons you've learned?
Well, for one is, if I want strong relationships with my family, I need to put them first and not put objects before them, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
That I could get addicted to, and trying to avoid things. I mean, obviously I say this now, I can't even drink, but trying to avoid alcohol and drugs and things like that, and just trying to keep family first, I guess.
Yeah, no, I think that's right on. I'm going to throw her a curveball. We talked about questions before. She's going to poop her pants right now.
I'm scared.
But this is not bad. We talked about this before. I'm just curious because it just hit me. We talked about this with the situation we're at with drugs, and how right now it's like with fentanyl being so prevalent, you know, in the country and in Minnesota, people can do, you know, a drug one time, and if it's laced, you're done for.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of previous generations, oh, it's okay to experiment and blah, 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 and I don't know, I never wanted to be a complete, like, jerk-off parent that was, like, zero tolerance. But at the same time, now, as a parent, I look at her, especially, you know, Max 3, I can't even imagine what we're going to be facing when she's a little bit older. But, like, looking at her, I'm like, please, God, like, don't ever experiment, because you never know. And I'm curious, first, if that's anything that's, like, ever talked about, like, beyond us talking about it, like, friends have ever brought it up, or, you know, what your thoughts are with that.
Well, I know we just had, so we have a health, like, scattered throughout the year, right?
Oh, yeah, yep.
So we just had one of our health lessons for the year. I think it was last week. And they had, I can't remember what her job title was. Somebody from, I think, the middle school.
Okay.
Came in and was explaining, I think it was, like, the title was, like, fentanyl and, like, vapes.
Oh.
And, like...
Okay, yeah.
Talking about, yeah, like, kind of how you were talking about, like, how it can be laced and...
Yeah.
How dangerous it's getting and, like, ways that you can spot overdoses and stuff like that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. I mean, not cool, but, like...
It's good to know.
100%. Because it is more... I think it's more real now than it's ever been.
Yeah. Especially, you walk into a bathroom and it's straight just weed up your nose.
In school?
Yeah.
I've not heard that yet.
Well, some of the bathrooms. You have to, like, pick the right one to go to.
What the yeah. We're usually really open. Like, we have a lot. Like, we do know a lot of our school stuff, but...
Have I not told you that before?
No!
Oh, well, yeah.
I know a lot of fights happen, and they all videotape them in the bathroom. I know that part.
There was, like, one in the bathroom. Actually, no, I think there was one recently, too. Anyways, that doesn't matter.
I can't believe... I'm not surprised. So, ironic thing, Haley, because... So, she goes to the school... that's aligned with her mom's house. So she actually goes to the same high school I graduated from. Even though we now technically, Mike and I live out of that parameter, she goes there and yeah. So it's like, there's moments that I'm like, oh yeah, I'm not surprised. And I'm not totally surprised about that because, I mean, I've told you the story about when I was an interpreter in the schools. And we had that boy. So I worked in the special ed department. So, you know, we dealt with some kids that had some different disabilities. And we had one kid and it's like he wanted to be like a badass. Like, pretty sure his dad had an unfortunate history of like going to prison and things of that sort. But this student, he had a learning disability, but then still wanted that persona. So... the way he talked to staff was appalling, but like you couldn't help but like walk away and be like a little smirk, like, did he really just say that? But he went into the bathroom one time and rolled up a piece of paper, lit it on fire, and was quote unquote smoking a joint. But it was paper, so it started on fire. Oh, so I shouldn't be surprised that kids are smoking weed, especially because now they can be in vapes.
I was gonna say, because, like, it's not always weed, but there's always something going on.
All right.
Like vapes. Just in general.
Interesting.
Yes.
Okay. See, learn something new every day, parents. Okay. So, you know, wrapping up that addiction focus, I'm curious, are you addicted to anything?
As any teenager would say, whether they really want to admit it or not, my phone. It's so easy to just, let me just go on there for a minute. Then at least 10 minutes later, I was supposed to do this.
What would you say 75% of our fights are about?
Oh, my phone. 1,000%. I would even bump that percentage up.
All right, I like the honesty. Okay. Yeah, I'm not disagreeing at all. She's definitely addicted to her phone, but so am I. So is her dad. So is her sister, which is an embarrassing fact, as her mother. She had a panic attack when I told her earlier today that I was going to be taking away screen time. No TV, no phone. Whoo! Mm-hmm. Okay. Moving forward, we could sit and babble about that stuff all day. So, you know, you kind of leaned into, different perspectives and stuff. But I'm curious, what are some of the biggest fears or concerns that you have for your future?
So, probably one of the most important decisions I'll have to make soon, I should say. Like what I want to do, or where I want to go to college, if I want to go to college, what I want to do after college. I'm just worried that I'll make the wrong decision and then be stuck with whatever I'm doing, which I know you and Dad have, and my mom have always told me, like, it might not be what you want to do when you are coming out of high school, but just find what you want to do, and if you figure out that's not what you want to do, it's not what you want to do, and you
pick again.
Figure it out.
Yeah, exactly. Which, exactly. I mean, what am I, 36? And I'm still flipping around, right? Still making my mind up. And if you were to ask when I was your age, I was going to be a workers' compensation and divorce attorney because I was never going to run out of work. That was what I would tell people.
You still don't run out of work.
Oh, yeah. No, especially in today's world, you would never run out of work in that field. But yeah, exactly. I mean, yes, me, Dad, Mom, we all preach that. But one thing, going to college or not going to college, right? I don't even think that's something like that you're debating now as just a kid, like a teenager. Like, I think even as parents, we're debating that because I think rewind, oh my gosh, almost 20 years ago. When I graduated almost 20 years ago, that was like, parents preach that you go to college. And you are hearing now so much more again, like, that's not necessarily what you actually have to do.
There's a lot of things that you can do without getting a degree.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of people that do go to college, and, I mean, like you did.
Yeah.
You got a degree, and you had that job, and you're switched. And
yeah.
Yeah.
I've used my degree for, 2 years? But yeah, and I think it's just good to know, too, that there's possibilities. If you want to go to college, absolutely. And if you decide not right away, you can always go back later.
Yeah.
And whatever you do decide, like, we're in your corner. And as parents, I think it's important to remember, like, okay, I may not 1,000% agree, but I'm in their corner. I can tell them my thoughts a little bit, but still rally and root them on. And I think that's key. And it's not always easy, that's for dang sure, but end of the day, you know we're there. Okay, so kind of getting into our last fun topic here. We tried to hit like most of the topics of the podcast because obviously if they're affecting me as a person, they're my life, they're impacting my kids. So, because it's what is going on in our household. And I'm curious, as a teenager, what is your perspective on politics and how do you think it's impacting people your age?
Well, I know that my beliefs are a lot different than most people my age. I have disagreed. Not even, like, talking about it with my friends, but just disagreed with things that they've posted on social media. But I feel like with that it can make people a lot more judgmental, and I'm guilty of it.
Oh, yeah.
Always. I have judged people for things that their opinions, which isn't fully right, but I feel like everybody's judging each other if you have a different opinion.
Oh, totally. Mm-hmm. Very divided.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you're on that side. It's like, I think you said you read Romeo and Juliet, right? Last year? Yeah, it's like the Montagues and the Capulets, right? Like,
yeah.
You're on that side and I'm over here.
And there's, like, no in between.
Right. I'm going to throw a curveball.
Oh, again. The last one wasn't bad, though.
So, because you said, they post things on social media. And so Dad and I sat you down. It was during the riots. And you posted something that was trending. Mm-hmm. That, like, very much went against what Mike and I thought. And we weren't even mad that if you thought that way, fine, right? Like, but we asked her, like, hey, what was your thought process behind that? You know, tell us a little bit more about that. And she had nothing. Mm-mm. Which was very, I think, very typical. Like, we weren't surprised by that response. And it was a very trendy thing and very emotional connection type deal. But we just wanted to make sure, like, okay, if you're going to post shit,
do your research.
Do some digging. Make sure you're posting something that you truly understand. Do you think people your age do that?
I think that they think they do.
Okay.
But their resources might not be very...
Yeah.
Good.
Which, I think that almost hits that Montague's Capulets feel anyway, too. Like, well, your resources are bullshit. And I think it just goes back and forth. Like, we even question now sources of, oh, you got it from that? Oh, that's not real. Oh, and I got it from this. So, but I think as parents, she's giggling away. I think as parents, just making sure, like, hey, don't post something because it's trending, even though it's very appealing, because you want to fit in. Make sure you know what you're actually posting. Okay, so I'm curious then, you know, you talked a little bit about your perspective. You don't fit in, you know, the same kind of ideas sometimes with other people. You know, when Dad and I got involved, what are your thoughts, or how did you feel about that, and how has it impacted you?
Well, I think it's been good because I've been able to be, like you were kind of talking about, more aware of what is actually happening, I guess. Mm-hmm. And not just doing something because it's trendy. More, what do you actually think?
Yeah.
And do you actually stand with that? I think that's a big thing that I needed to learn.
Yeah.
Because, I had no idea what I was posting. I completely am flipped from that.
Mm-hmm. Right. Which if you'd continued to post those things, we wouldn't, if you had valid, like, this is why, okay. Like, me and Mike probably would have been like, oh, wow, okay. But, like, I mean, just like I have friends and I have, family on the other side who think very differently. And, you know, there's moments I'm like, oh, what the F? But it's that's their thought. That's their opinion, and that's okay. But with you, it was just like, okay, let's make sure she posted this with actual thought. I'm curious, you know, so it's been good because you've gotten to learn those types of things. How is the time commitment that Dad and I have to, like, what are your thoughts on that? Because I know that, because I'm thinking, like, if moms are listening to this and they're like, I can't take time away, you know, truth, like, honest, how does that impact you?
Well, I think it's going to be different with every teen, because not all teenagers are going to want to be as involved, I feel like, as I am.
Yeah.
I feel like, because I've gone, I mean, like I talked about earlier, the convention.
Like, you tag along.
Yeah. Because I am interested in what's going on, and I know not everybody's going to feel that way, but I feel like if you weren't in politics right now, I feel like our life would be different. And I don't know, well, obviously it'd be different, but I don't know if it would necessarily feel right. Because I feel like once you, because I feel like I know this is something that you enjoy, and I know this is something that my dad enjoys, and I feel like it just helps bring our family together.
Awesome. I like that. And I didn't even ask her to say that. Okay. So, my last big question for you here. What are some things that you hope change for your generation and the ones following up, especially, I mean, because you do have siblings way younger than you.
Following God and His Word. I think there is so many people that are following their own God that they are creating. If you and it's making the world scary.
Yeah.
There's so much sin in the world. And I think, well, obviously we're all sinners.
Yeah.
But I think if you can figure out what you can do to help follow God and His Word, I think the world would be so much better.
Yeah. I had tears in my eyes. I don't know what I'm more impressed by at the moment. That answer, because, and I'm going to, if you're not a person of faith, I think you'd be like, well, that's corny as hell.
Yeah.
Right?
More than lie, yeah.
But as a person of faith, as somebody who's hoping for very similar things, like, that blew me away, right? Coming from somebody her age. But especially because that's not necessarily anything we've ever talked about. Because like I said, a few minutes ago, like, we've been trying not to over preach to her or force her into this faith journey. And I don't know, I am so thankful that you went to youth group, that you're making those connections, because the fact that, we are all sinners. Like, yeah, we are. But, like, we've never talked about that. Like, I've never told her that. I've told her sister that because we read through scripture and we do, But Haley and I, because we are newer to this journey, and, I don't think Dad's ever sat down and talked to you like that. And, like, it's just really cool to know that there's still kids out there getting this information. And I think that alone is hope. And obviously we need to increase the number. But with that, I mean, do you have any last minute thoughts?
I would say if you have a teenager, I would encourage you to find a church, if you don't already have one, and get in touch with the youth pastor. Because I don't know how. I don't know. I was doing so good.
You were doing. She's our crier. Like, I cry too, but she's worse than me.
I just think
You're good.
that faith is very important, and youth pastors know how to reach younger generations.
Yes.
Because that's their job. And
yeah.
I know ours is good at it. For sure.
Absolutely.
But
I love that.
Yeah. I think
that was beautiful. Well, as we both have tears in our eyes, and this is now officially my longest podcast, which I think is freaking cool. I'm not going to lie. I was really nervous that we were going to run through this really quick, because usually That's how we roll. Like, we're quicker. Yeah.
And usually my answers are very
short.
Short
was
sweet.
That was my fear. I don't know if sweet's always it. Hey, what do you want for this? I don't know. Give me an answer. But anyways, first off, huge thank you to Haley for being brave, being bold, sharing her story. Because I think there's power in sharing it in itself, saying it, putting them into words, not just in a text, right? But hoping that it impacts either a parent or some teenagers. Because even if this impacts just one person, helps one person take a step, that is what this is all about. Yeah. So I want to thank Haley for being here. I want to thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode. I hope you enjoyed hearing from Hales and gaining some insight into the world of teens, and remembering that as moms, it is important to listen to our kids and understand their perspective.
That's really all a teenager wants.
Yep.
Is to be heard.
Yep. Even when it's just getting the tea. So if you enjoyed this episode, please make sure you subscribe or follow the podcast. Leave a review if you have not yet. And don't forget to share the podcast and join us next time as we continue to ramble on about all things getting healthy, momming, and politics. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Ramblings of an Addict with Jenna Dix. Remember, if you are battling an addiction, reach out for help and support. There are many resources available to assist in your journey towards recovery. Surround yourself with a supportive community and never give up on the path towards a healthier and happier life. I appreciate you taking the time to listen and joining me on this journey. As you heard, I'm always rambling. But seriously, thank you for your support, and make sure to subscribe and follow my channel. I can't wait to share more with you on the next episode. Until then, keep on rambling. If you have found this podcast helpful and want to dive deeper into personal growth and self-improvement, be sure to head over to my website, jennadix.com. You'll find a wealth of resources there. There is a little less drugs, sex, and rock and roll these days, but whether you're interested in getting healthy, information on momming or parenting, or politics, jennadix.com has something for everyone. So, what are you waiting for? Head to jennadix.com today and start your journey towards personal growth and self-awareness. See you there.